So like many of you, the new iMac is out and I am considering buying it. And the key word here is considering, because there's a lot of speculation about what may be coming in the future. This raises the question, for me at least, should I buy a new iMac? And that may be a question for you guys as well. So we're gonna take a look at some of the specs. Of course, I don't have a new iMac, but we'll look at the specs, kind of look at what one I think I should buy, as well as maybe what kind of person or user should buy each level, and then make a final decision, maybe, whether I should drop the money or not. Coming up. Okay, so I actually work primarily right now off of this machine right here. You guys don't necessarily see it, but it is a 16-inch MacBook Pro, and it is kind of my workhorse. Now, I do have an older MacBook Pro, and I used to have an actual 27-inch, one of the actual first 27-inch iMacs that came out, and it almost lasted me a full decade before it actually decided to call it quits. Of course, I didn't edit on that machine or do anything like that because it was a little underpowered for especially any kind of 4K video, but for everyday usage, it performed quite well. Couldn't use the most current operating system, but again, wasn't a big issue. So the first question is, what's new on these machines? Well, if we look at Apple's website right here, and just so you guys know, I'm on Apple Canada, so the prices may vary depending on where you are. Of course, if you're in the US, prices will be, or at least look a little higher on my screen than they actually are. But if we look at the new iMac, first and foremost is that the 27 and 21-inch iMacs have had pretty much zero cosmetic change. They are the same machine now as they have been since 2012. If you're looking for a redesign, this is not the machine. If you have an iMac right now that is currently running and doing everything that you hope for, and we're looking for something extra spicy, something that shows that you have the newest computer out there, then again, this is gonna look the same as the computer you've had for the last 8 years. But internally, things have changed, which is gonna be good. And even a lot of changes from the 2019 version of the iMac. First off, for those that maybe have never had an iMac, one of the beauties of an iMac is simply it's all-in-one. It's one of those machines that you take out of the box, you plug it in, and you're good to go. It comes with everything that you need. Setting it up is really about as time consuming as it takes you to physically unpack it, and that's it. Performance-wise, for the majority of users, it is above and beyond. Like I stated before, my previous iMac, which was a 2011, lasted me almost a full decade. So that's pretty good for a computer, and it functioned very well. Now, the new iMacs have a lot of customization inside them. So they will come in a couple different versions. Of course, the 21.5-inch and the 27-inch, which is your first question that you have to ask. What screen do you want? As well as they'll come in a base 21, then the 4K versions of the 21. Please don't look at the base, always go to the 4K. And then of course in the 27 inches, we go to the 5K displays. So this is huge for those of us that are doing anything graphic, photo, gaming. Having that 5K display, fantastic. Now the one thing they show on their site here, the 21.5-inch doesn't show that it's new by any means, but one of the things that we have to realize that across the board, 21s and 27s have all finally gotten rid of their Fusion drives. So the Fusion drive, of course, was a hybrid SSD and spinning drive. It was a small solid state drive with a large spinning. So all the storage happened on the spinning drive, and the computer tried to figure out what information to put on that little solid state drive to speed it up. Did it help? Sure. Was it fast? No. So moving both the 21.5-inch and 27s completely to solid state was a huge benefit. So if you decide that you do like having that storage versus speed, you can opt out of the solid state and actually get the Fusion drive put in. I don't recommend it. I'd rather you spend that little bit of extra money down the road and just buy an external drive for storage if that's something of interest for you. Way better option. Now, the one thing that has changed for the 27-inch is that it does now have True Tone, and that is something that allows it to give you a more natural viewing experience, as they explain here on the screen, as well as a big option that work in an environment that produces a lot of glare. They actually have this upgrade customization that you can get for the iMac that allows you to put this nano texture on it, and that is something that is supposed to reduce glare almost completely. So if you do work in an environment that produces a lot of glare, it is not a cheap upgrade. It's about $500 US, I believe in that $600 Canadian mark, but it could be worthwhile. Again, if you are someone that suffers from a lot of reflection and glare coming into your machine, especially if you do a lot of photo or graphic work, being able to see the machine properly without having to cover it like this can be worth that money. So the big thing they say is, unlike this having just a standard matte finish, which is what happens on a lot of monitors, this is actually a texture that is physically etched into the actual glass. So you get that really nice image quality with having all that reflection and glare kind of taken away. Worth $500 US? For some, for sure. For me, I would think possibly, but I just don't know if my budget will allow it right now. So we'll see. Now, even though the 21-inch machines did not get any processor upgrade, the 27s did. So all the 27-inch iMacs received an upgrade and now run Intel's latest 10th generation processors. That's their i5, i7, and i9s. The i9, of course, is a customization that you can add to these machines if that is something that you think would be useful in your scenario. So you'll see here the two first models, if we look at the three, are 6-core, both i5s, and lastly an i7. But these 10th generation Intels are producing about 20 to 30% more power than their current generation. So we should see huge improvements in everything from photo, video, and game performance. Now, sadly, as I said, the 21-inch did not get any of these updates, and it's still running on the 8th generation Intel machine compared to the 27 with the latest 10th generation. And as you can see, even with something like Final Cut Pro, we can see upwards of a 40% performance increase when these machines are encoding or transcoding ProRes footage, which for me would be a huge increase. But again, it all really depends on what you're using this machine for. And one of the questions that you and I have to really get into our heads right now is, what kind of life expectancy are we gonna want out of this machine? And this is something that you and I will talk about in a few minutes. The other big increase that we've seen here, and this is something that is stated on their website, is that the 21.5-inch can now take upwards of 32 gigs of RAM. Now, the 21-inch, just be aware, is not user exchangeable or user addable memory. We can't add memory to the 21-inch, so whatever you decide to buy with RAM is what you have. Not so with the 27-inch. The 27-inch can take up to 128 gigs of RAM, and the recommendation is get the 8 gig and go out to your local computer store and buy the RAM that you need, because it is significantly cheaper and will perform just as good as the RAM that Apple puts in. And it is a very, very easy install. So all you have to do is remove the little door on the back of the iMac, pop in the 2 chips, restart the computer, and you're off to the races. Please just do it that way. Please don't spend the enormous amount of money that they are asking for this. Now, the last big change that you'll see here in regards to performance is the actual graphics processor. And again, the iMac 21-inch comes with the AMD Radeon Pro 500X series and can be configured up to the Pro Vega 20. But it's really in the 27-inch that we see these huge upgrades, where you are getting an AMD Radeon Pro 5000 series with 4 gigs of RAM, but can be upgraded all the way to a 5700 XT card with 16 gigs of RAM. Now, these are not, again, inexpensive upgrades, but depending on the work that you do and how important that extra bit of time saving may be in the future, this could be a very, very viable upgrade. And again, we always have to throw in the fact that budget plays a lot into this, as well as how long you hope to be able to use or keep this machine for. Because if you're only going to keep it for a year or two, then just get the machine that's going to hold you over. If this is a machine that you hope to get 5, 6, 7 years out of, then you may want to start investing that extra now that will help you stretch that time frame out. Okay, and I said the last one was kind of the last one, but it's not really. And this is something that was a huge increase or improvement even on my 16-inch MacBook, and that's kind of where this came from, is that the 16-inch MacBook got this new speaker setup and microphone setup. So it had this really, really nice set of speakers in it. The sound and audio coming from it was fantastic. The microphone setup, not as good as a dedicated, true professional microphone by any means, but for those of you that are using this on a Zoom call or a WebEx call or doing FaceTime, it is a vast improvement. And what goes along with that is that, unlike this machine, the new 27-inch iMac is getting a 1080p webcam, which is fantastic. It looks to be the same webcam that they pulled from the iMac Pro. So this is the first time that the standard 27-inch iMac has gotten that 1080p camera, and I think that's a big one. Now, the other thing that the 27-inch iMac gets in it now, again, that kind of comes from, say, the 16-inch MacBook, is that new T2 chip. And that T2 chip has some features in it that helps with a lot of the audio components, but also works in conjunction a lot with video encoding and decoding. So for those of you that are working with H.265 codec, hopefully you guys know what that means. If not, then don't worry about it. But if you do, you should see a huge speed increase with any kind of rendering or editing of that style of footage, which is a format that more and more cameras right now are actually using. So this could be a huge increase in how well this machine, the 27-inch iMac, actually works with the footage that you are working with right now or will possibly be working with in the future. The other bonus, of course, of the T2, and one of the reasons it was kind of first designed, it is based on being a security chip. So it does include what's called a secure enclave coprocessor that provides, it says here, the foundation for secure boot and encrypted storage capabilities. So again, in this day and age where we are all in regards to privacy, as we should be, having this extra chip on our computer is a welcome addition without question. It's a big addition, and I'm super happy to see it finally here. Now, the biggest reason that a lot of us like the iMac, outside of the fact that we get such a beautiful display, a super powerful machine, is that the iMac still contains all of its available ports. So we get all those ports that you and I know and love. The big one, of course, is the USB-A port. A lot of people still complain a lot about the MacBooks, that they are 100% USB-C, Thunderbolt 3 based, because you need to get all kinds of adapters. For those that have watched this channel before, you've seen that I've done all kinds of reviews on all kinds of adapters, but always nice to have a machine that doesn't need any of that. So we see here that all iMacs come with a 1 gig Ethernet port, which can be upgraded to a 10 gigabyte if you have devices that you are moving and they all are 10 gigabit compatible. This is not a very expensive upgrade, and I do recommend that it might be something that you'd look at. Ultra fast Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I believe it's Bluetooth 5. Yep, Bluetooth 5 on the 27-inch models. So you should have no problems with that. You are also getting a headphone jack, an SD card, which is fantastic because the MacBook Pros don't have that. And again, for those of us that are into photography or videography, the majority of our footage comes from SD cards. So having just that little slot in the back can be a lifesaver. We get 4 USB-A ports, 2 Thunderbolt 3/USB-C ports, and either that gigabit or 10 gigabit Ethernet port, depending on if you upgrade or not. The other bonus here is that if you have all the money in the world and you want to power 2 external 6K displays, have at her. You're good to go. Probably not something that I'll be doing anytime soon, but for those of you that want that, you got that. And finally, you do get, by default, the small keyboard and the Magic Mouse 2, which is actually a nice little setup, but you can upgrade them if you choose to the larger keyboard with numeric pad, and you can either replace or add the trackpad, which may be something that I look at. Really the question now, 2 questions actually. Number 1, should you buy your iMac or should I buy an iMac right now? I think the questions that you and I have to kind of think about, and hopefully we will have a good set of comments down below for those that are also in this kind of predicament, is that with Apple releasing their own Apple Silicon soon, they did state that they would have a machine out this year. A lot of rumors thought that it would be the iMac that was getting the big upgrade with the Apple Silicon. But now rumors are saying that the iMac may be pushed into 2021, and we may just see a MacBook coming out right now. So a base MacBook coming out with something like an A14X processor in it. If you have an iMac that can survive and last at least a year, I would say don't upgrade unless you need to. If you can get by, then wait, because you may get one of the newer machines that will have that new fresh design. But if you're in a scenario like myself right now, where you kind of want to make sure you have a second machine, because if something happened to this computer right now, I have no other computers that can actually function and edit video, and that would just shut me right down. So I can't have that. So I need to get a machine that can function at least a mid-level. Am I gonna spend and customize this machine to a high end? Not at all. I'm actually thinking about maybe the mid-level iMac with maybe a couple little upgrades, because again, I just want this to kind of tide me over for a couple years. And that's the other thing I think that you and I need to be aware of if we're looking at, should we buy a new machine? This, as a lot of people have stated, could possibly be, we don't know for sure, could possibly be the last of the Intel-based iMacs. And if it is the last of the Intel-based iMacs, and we start to see an Apple Silicon-based iMac come out within the next couple of months or year, the real question is, how long will the iMac that you and I buy now be supported for? Will we get 3-4 years out of it? I would think yes, for sure. I would think we would get 3 or 4 years out of it. But just like my old iMac where I got 9 years out of it, I can't expect that. If you're someone that buys an iMac hoping to get 7, 8, 9 years out of it and have full support, I think it's better for you to wait. I think it's better for you to wait for the new machine if you can, because that support that you're gonna get is gonna be very limited and a lot sooner. For me though, my expectation and hope is that I get 3 or 4 years out of this machine. At that point in time, camera gear of course increases. I need a machine that's gonna be able to produce and go through that footage smoothly, and because of that, I'll need to upgrade anyway. So for me, I think buying a machine like this that will last me 2 or 3 or 4 years is okay, but that's me. You guys need to really go through and make that decision. We've kind of gone through all the specs, some of the upgrades, what the new 27 and 21 inch machines have in them now, what the upgrades are good for, maybe why you would upgrade to those, and maybe why you wouldn't. Are you guys looking at a new iMac? Are you looking at this new Intel-based one? Are you looking at possibly holding off until Apple releases their own silicon-based machine? What kind of longevity are you hopefully going to get from this machine, or do you expect from this machine? That's probably a better question. hopefully you and I can have some great conversations down below in the comments. So leave them down below. Let me know your thoughts. Are you buying a new Mac? Are you holding off to the next one? Or do you even care? All right, my friends, I'm gonna leave you there. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Later, my friends. I really gotta think about it. I want a new machine, but we'll see. We'll see, I guess. You guys will know. You guys will know when I get one, if I do. Oh yeah. Now my coffee's cold. Yep, cold coffee.